Oh, that's not annoying.
At least I don't do it constantly.
You kind of do. When I edit these things, I have to take that kind of crap out. But I also have to take my own self out of like guys getting ice and whatnot. I delete those clips. So if you ever see me moving, if you don't hear anything, it's because I deleted that audio track. So people don't hear me rustling around in my ice bin.
If anybody is actually watching this podcast,
yeah, right.
If anybody's watching this, please do something better with your life.
Ow! Coming from the dude who's about to take a big ass bong rip.
I am done with my work for the day. Thank you very much.
What work? What work did you do?
I made an incredible build on Elden Ring.
We're going to move past that. Because if you get started on Elden Ring, we're not going to get you to shut up for like 6 hours. And
no, but okay, but like, you know how whips were terrible in Dark Souls?
Here we go.
They made whips good, and they're so fun. They're literally the best thing ever. I'm in love. Anyway,
so
but they like stagger. They stagger everything. You just like.
I'm gonna stagger you. You see what I did there? I just cut your head off. Just boulder it over. My poise is higher than yours, motherfucker. I'll boulder you over.
Or your strength is higher than my poise.
Shut the fuck up. I come bearing good news and bad news, motherfucker.
What's the bad news?
The bad news is we recorded this 2 days ago, and none of it actually stuck. And none of the recording stuck. We lost all the footage.
God damn it.
Mm-hmm. But the good news is I got so drunk, I don't remember what I said. So it's like we get to do it all over again, fresh and new. Aren't you excited, Graham? Graham? Second, I thought my screen froze.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Alright. What I do remember is we talked about the Emmys. Something about the Emmys. Something. I remember the word Emmy. Whether you're talking about Emily or Emmanuel or whatever. Emmy was a word that sticks on my brain. So,
well, the Emmy nominations came out about like 6 days ago now, probably nearly a week, and sure. they caused quite a stir. You know, like of course, whenever stuff like this happens, everybody has an opinion, especially when TV has become as religious as it is nowadays. Like Stranger Things came out and it became, you know, the biggest thing in the world. Squid Game came out, was the biggest thing in the world. You know, the shows have become like religions, and I fall into that category a little bit myself, I have to say, with many shows. And luckily, a lot of them are on this list today.
So help me God, if you say the word leftovers, I will come through the screen and punch you.
Unfortunately, the leftovers stopped airing about 5 years ago, so it did not make the list of nominees today. But specifically, we're going to not focus on the nominations as a whole. We're going to focus on the shows that had the most nominations.
Ooh.
Does that make sense?
It does. It's like a Shyamalian twist.
Yeah, instead of, because, you know, you can get real. We can. I'm not saying singling you. I'm just using you as in like for a saying. People have a tendency to get, you know, stuck in things. So if we go category by category, we could be here all night. So I think it's nice if we just stick to like a show at a time and not go past the ones that were really popular. And the most popular one this year is one that neither of us have seen. Strangely enough, Succession, with Brian Cox, Matthew McFadden, and a bunch of other people that I am forgetting their names right now, but a great cast of people, specifically Brian Cox, because Brian Cox is amazing. And so I've never seen this show, but I like everybody on it, and I punch myself for having never seen a
Ooh,
single frame
can I have a turn?
besides trailer. So you should take a turn. What do you have to say, man?
No, I'd like take a turn punching you.
Oh, I see what you mean. Please do not. I'm fragile.
You bruise like a peach.
But the next show on the list, while Succession had 25 nominations, which
Holy shit!
wow, 25 nominations. That is a lot. That means they were nominated for practically everything that they could be nominated for, and then some.
Oh shit!
The next one on the list is tied. It's Ted Lasso and The White Lotus. Now, I have not seen The White Lotus. However, I have seen Ted Lasso several times.
Same.
I loved that show.
That show was amazing.
Ted Lasso has a special kind of humor that we absolutely needed when it came out. You know, the first season aired in the summer after COVID hit, and the second season hit in the summer after that. So we'd been dealing with COVID for about a year and a half at that point. So both seasons have been this huge relief from just the tiresome bullshit of everything going on in the world, from politics to just people disagreeing over the tiniest little stuff. So Ted Lasso was just that really solid show. I loved both seasons. I thought they were excellent, and I'm so excited for season 3.
Let's talk about Ted Lasso a little bit and what makes it special. Like, first of all, Jason Sudeikis. Just talk about what a powerhouse of comedy and heart, and just
absolutely
his portrayal as this guy who's got inner demons, but always, you know, it puts on the face and believes, and like you truly part of the repeat, but like you believe that he believes, like you want to believe in him.
Yeah.
He believes in himself, and he knows that he can obtain bigger and better things, like something better right around the corner as long as you keep the faith. You know, not necessarily religious, but just like the faith in the good of humans and the good of mankind and the good of people. And so, like, some people would say that's naivete, but like I don't feel like that's who Ted Lasso is. Like, I think he knows how shitty the world is around him. Like, he's not ignorant to it. He's not naive.
Absolutely.
He just chooses to put that best foot forward, and it's like, fuck, if so many more people were like that, imagine what this world could be like.
Ted is an interesting character. I'm going to back up a little bit about his history. So originally, Ted Lasso started when Jason Sudeikis and Brendan Hunt and another writer from How I Met Your Mother were hired to do basically a comedic. That was very loud.
Sorry.
They did a comedic
by the way.
commercial, basically. NBC had just gotten the rights to broadcast British football, soccer in America, in the United States. They were able to show the British leagues competing in Britain, but on American television. And NBC was very excited about this. So they hired Jason Sudeikis and Brendan Hunt to basically write a sketch about just anything. They said, like, find a way to promote this in your way. And so Ted Lasso became this. He was just this dumb one-note character of he was like very American, very macho. Like, I'm gonna run the stuff this way and my way or the highway, and he would always make just the worst jokes about Britain, and had no idea what he was doing because he's a football player, not a soccer player. So he just has no idea what he's doing coaching these people, and it was just basically 6 or 7 minutes in total across several different commercials of him just being a dick. Very, very one note. He was just a
not the Ted Lasso we'd eventually get on Apple TV.
Not the Ted Lasso we'd eventually know. And what they did, I think, is absolutely beautiful. They took a character who was one note, and they made him, strangely enough, one of the smartest, most knowledgeable characters in television. He's actually comedically too knowledgeable about stuff. He understands way too much about different levels of pop culture. He understands everything from like popular Marvel movies to like cult David Lynch movies and stuff like that. Like he knows all the like the ins and outs of cult and pop culture, and he just seems to have this deep knowledge of music and film and television and art history that, like, weirdly enough, he's not. He seems to be like a mega nerd that is not possible. He has a scope of knowledge that is almost unimaginable. It's like how in Parks and Recreation, Leslie Knope did way too much. It's like inhumanly possible that she did that much amount of work, like making all these gifts for all these different people.
Yeah, if you break down like the man hours involved, it's just physically impossible.
She would never be like, she would have to never
sleep
in order to actually. Yeah, she would have to literally never sleep to pull it off. I feel the same about Ted Lasso's knowledge of stuff, is like he would have to literally never do anything else but just read Wikipedia and listen to music and watch movies. He would never have time for anything else. So that's kind of the joke about how much knowledge he has. It's like, where do you have time to learn all of this? So he's very, very woke. He's really like, he understands like people's like the struggles of different like class cultures, and understands like, okay, what's right and wrong, and he's always trying to learn. That's the important part of this character, is that they took this silly one-note dick from a commercial from 8 years ago, and they made him a character who really, really cares about learning, who really cares about like getting to know people and like understanding what makes them, what gets their gears going, and cares about helping them. Doesn't really care about himself until he's the only one around. As soon as anybody else is around, he is the last person whose attention he wants to be on. Every time anybody else is around, he wants to express.
He turns the spotlight on others.
Affection
and he wants
for them.
to learn about them and see what makes them tick and really make them feel special, because he truly believes that they are.
Exactly. He's a model of human kindness, of what we should try and strive to be. And yeah, I think he's just a fascinating character. They did wonderful things with him, and it's not just a show about sports. Like it looks like
honestly,
it's
that's kind of my only beef with the show. Is it just like for a show that's supposed to be about being soccer or football, depending on where you live in this world? There's not a whole lot of it, like relative to the rest of the show, and so it works. Don't get me wrong, and especially in the world of COVID, since these were filmed during COVID, like you can't have the giant crowds and stuff like that. So I'm really hoping for series 3 that they kind of broaden the scope and we see a little bit more soccer, because like I feel like those scenes would really be good for storytelling, and I can't explain why, but I feel like it just like I think it would fill a little bit more of the world in a sense. I liked watching that team grow. It's like if I could harken back to the early 2000s, late 90s, whatever year it came out. Remember the Titans? You ever watch that movie? With Denzel Washington,
like twice. Yeah,
and
they always showed in school, high school gym teachers and health teachers.
That is such a great movie. And there's a couple of scenes in there that just that help build the camaraderie and the cooperation that these kids had in high school, and these things are done during the games, and they're really powerful and just really well executed. Now, granted, maybe not all the actors on Ted Lasso can play soccer, except for Danny Rojas, Danny Rojas, but like
football is life.
But so maybe that's why they don't show a whole lot of it. But it just, I don't know. I feel like it's like if there's one thing that's missing from the show, it's actually like showing them playing the game more.
So
another fun fact, if I could, really quick.
That's good.
Because I learned this by listening to the Strouds podcast. Apparently, it's really fucking difficult to film soccer games because they are super anal about their grass, and and like you can't bring a dolly out onto a soccer pitch to record, with the camera because you're fucking up the grass with the weight of the dolly.
Long lenses. That's what I've heard. Is they always end up just like going up into the stands and doing long lenses. And like
Zach Braff, the star of Scrubs, who's friends with Bill Lawrence, the showrunner of Scrubs and Ted Lasso, directed I think the second episode of season 2 or something like that, or beginning. I don't know. You directed the episode. He came back and told stories.
Are you getting on Scrubs now? You were getting on me about Elden Ring, so I'm going to get on you about Scrubs.
On anything I want. Thank you very much. But no, I'm not going to go on the Scrubs pothole. I'm just letting you know that, like, the connection there. And he talked about the directing and how just like, he did have a few scenes on a soccer pitch, and it was really difficult to film those because the regulations were so strict. So that's where all I did right there. I'll stop talking. Did you jerk off a Smurf? So,
no further questions.
Was it the last episode you were drinking flamingo cum, or is that the one we got cut?
I think that.
I distinctly remember in the last episode you were drinking something that looks like flamingo cum. Now you're drinking Smurf cum.
That was when we were recording, but that got cut off.
No, you're not.
Sorry about that.
You don't want people knowing that you're drinking flamingo cum, do you?
I mean, I'm not hiding it.
How is Papa Smurf these days? Probably much better after you visited him.
Oh, he's very good. He's feeling loose.
I didn't know the Blue Man Group came to town.
Well, somebody had to take care of him.
I mean, this is what happens when you have blue balls. I win. Fuck you, drink your blue gins. Yeah,
I'm sipping it. It's a sipper.
You already did the
anyway, moving on. Anyway, the Ted Lasso is wonderful, and the next show on this list after The White Lotus is Hacks. And I really, really liked Hacks. You haven't seen this yet,
but you've told me about it in the past. This is the one that was done by the writers that were like two of the writers of Parks and Recreation and things like that, right? And like executive produced by Michael Schur.
Yeah. So Jen Statsky, who started writing on Parks and Recreation and like Jen Statsky, who started working on Parks and Recreation in like season 4 or season 5. Went on to work on The Good Place with Mike Schur and basically became the co-showrunner. She was not a creator, but she was his right-hand woman for the entirety of the show as the co-showrunner. Whenever he had to make a decision that he was not there for, she would make that decision. And so after the Good Place ended, the natural next step for somebody with a rising career like that is to create a show. And Jen Statsky obviously has a history with Paul W. Downs and Lucia Agnello, who were the creators of Broad City and have done several other projects that I'm blanking on their names, but Broad City is like their big thing.
Man, what do I pay you for?
And I know. When I'm high, I just can't help it. But Paul W. Downs and Lucia Agnello and Jen Statsky teamed up and said, "We've got an idea." And apparently, they've been working on it it's been bubbling around in their brains for about 6 or 7 years at this point. So they finally all had, the name behind themselves to make it happen. And I have to tell you, it's a really, really smart but silly show at the same time. It's a perfect union of those two series, Parks and Recreation, Good Place, and think of Parks and Recreation and The Good Place as one kind of continuation since it's the same creator. has a very, very similar tone and vibe and very similar messaging and styles to them. And Broad City has its very own unique style to it. And those mixed together is exactly what Hacks is. It's a perfect level of intelligent, understanding, or trying to, learning about the world, but also making fun of it and being silly. And that's exactly what I like in a show, and especially in a comedy, is when things are smart.
Yeah, and obviously it's getting well received with Emmy nominations. How many Emmys did it get? Holy shit!
17. Yeah, it's the fourth highest nominated show this year. It won, I believe, 4 or 5 awards last year, and well deserved. I think that this season actually was way better than season 1, and I think that it deserves just about every award it was nominated for. Unfortunately, some of the awards it got double nominated, especially in the actor categories, so they will not be able to win every single award they were nominated for. But
sorry, it might be the alcohol talk. You're saying like 2 people from Hacks got nominated for the same award?
Yes, in fact, for the category of guest actor, best guest actress in a series, they have 4 actresses from Hacks who were nominated for in that category. So 4 of their nominations, only one of those will make it through, obviously. Unfortunately, but next up is Only Murders in the Building, and I
haven't, but it's definitely on my list. I mean, because what I understand, we got Steve Martin and Martin Short, who name a better comedy duo, and you're going to be wrong because they're not going to be better than those two. Like, they're hysterical. And then Selena Gomez, I mean, she's got that Disney acting behind her, I guess. And I mean, I'm not a fan of her music, but like, I'll look at her.
I had zero feelings about Selena Gomez. I shouldn't say zero feelings. I associated her with Justin Bieber. And so I immediately was like, no. Just no.
All of the no.
And all of the no. And so that was just my automatic like association with her. I was like, she dates Justin Bieber? No, absolutely not. I don't give a shit about either of these people. But I've started watching. I watched Only Murders in the Building. I've seen every episode released so far, and she has really impressed me. She stands out. Like, you think at first that she's very dry, and even when I was showing the show to my dad, he was like, "She's very dry." First 2 episodes, he's like, "She's not very bringing a lot to the table." And then after episode 3, he actually said to me, "I really felt like she was coming into her own in that episode." And even my dad, who would never give a fucking shit about somebody like Selena Gomez, was taken aback by her acting, just as I was when watching this series. So I understand your concern. You're wrong.
I don't know. I never had any interest. Like, she's not a selling factor for me. Let's put it that way. It's like, oh, I gotta watch this because Selena Gomez in it. I mean, like, whatever. Tell me when she's got an OnlyFans account, and then we might talk.
Yeah.
But in the meantime,
all right. Well, we're
I think that's a good wrong thought right there. But
yeah, fucking pervert.
Sorry, not sorry. I'm not sorry. It's like country music. You listen to half an hour of country music, you put it on mute, and you get 28 minutes of boobs. Like, nothing wrong with that. I definitely want to check that show out though, because I know nothing more than the cast, so I'm really just intrigued by watching Steve Martin and Martin Short run around like Cheech and Chong. Basically, in my head is what they're doing, just like running around like not idiots, but just like bouncing around and No, I think I kind of would be surprised for it. But like, what are some of the categories you got nominated for?
Fair enough. Well, I mean, all the actors. Well, never mind. Sorry. Steve Martin and Martin Short.
So Selena Gomez, after all your prattling just a moment ago, she did not get nominated.
No, and I remember thinking about that. I was like, I'm surprised because I thought she did a really good job. So I was surprised that she didn't get nominated. But they both got nominated. The writing got nominated, so Steve Martin got nominated because he created the show. The great direction, they got nominated for everything. He got 17 nominations. So it yeah. Next to Hacks, it was next up is a show I've only seen one episode of.
This is with Zendaya,
and,
right?
Zendaya, yeah.
Very game.
I've only seen the one episode. I want to see more. I just, based on that one episode, I didn't relate. I don't know. I feel like I've never known high schoolers that partied that hard. I guess I just grew up at a bad time. Yeah, I guess I was just a loser.
Hold on. Past tense?
I've known college.
No, hold on. Hold the fucking phone.
I was a loser.
We're a loser. Oh. Yeah, no.
Was a loser.
Agree to disagree.
So I've known college students who party as hard as they do in Euphoria. I've never known high schoolers that party that hard. That just in The Leftovers, in that first episode, it makes sense because they all feel like the world is coming to an end, and so literally nobody gives a shit.
You know what else nobody gives a shit about? The show that ended 5 years ago.
Hey, fuck you. That show is a masterpiece, and you will watch it.
Moving on.
Next up was Barry with 14 nominations.
Bill Hader. I've seen the first season once. So, as it was airing, I watched the first season with Bill Hader in. No, but I do know it's a great show, and I definitely want to go back. It's HBO, right? Yeah, so I don't have any of the HBO subscriptions and shit, so it's kind of hard for me at the moment, but I do know that it is a quality piece of television, and especially in season 3. I understand he's directing a lot of these episodes and just really showcasing some amazing directorial ability based on the fact that he was an editor before he was a part of SNL way back in the day. So, I really want to see this. Back
when he first got into the industry, he wanted to be a filmmaker.
I don't know why anybody wanted to be an editor, but to each their own. That takes a certain tenacity. I don't possess.
But then he was told he was funny, and he ended up taking a few classes at Second City, I believe, and continued from there. Started doing some improv and ended up on SNL. And now he's getting to do exactly what he set out to do, is be a filmmaker. And the episodes where he's directing, there's some clear divides. Usually in shows, it can be jarring when episodes feel different or filmed differently. But in this show, it works so well because every episode is supposed to feel inherently different. And every situation, sometimes it's following different characters, and you're supposed to be feeling certain levels of stress or anxiety based off of which character you're following or what situation. And the last 2 episodes, I believe he directed 4 of this last season, but the last 2 episodes I know he directed, and those episodes were edge of your seat tension, with also some of the funniest laughs I've ever gotten out of a comedy, out of a show that feels like it should be, at this point, should be a drama. The first season was a comedy, the second season was a dramedy, and this one just feels like a drama comedy. But it has some really funny moments. That's the weird thing. It's comedy is kind of a question mark at the end, despite it being so outrageously funny.
Definitely a different show than I remember watching because, like you said, season 1 was more of a comedy, and I remember I could see there was elements of drama in there. I could tell this guy had demons and shit to get off his chest, and there was more to his story than what meets the eye. He was definitely a transformer, but season 1 was a slow crawl. So I'm excited to go back and check it out at some point when I
absolutely
succumb to HBO Max. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah. So Barry was tied with 3 other shows.
What do we got?
In terms of nominations? 14. The 3 other shows were Dope Sick. Seen it?
Nope.
Severance.
Nope.
Squid Game. Damn.
I'm an uncultured swine. You know this, motherfucker.
So I have not seen Dope Sick or Squid Game. Squid Game is on the list. I have just seen
you've been raving about this show.
Severance, and I think that this show should have been the highest nominated show this
until
year.
You watch it. It's so good.
It should have outdone. I maybe, but I don't know. Severance is my kind of thing. It's the sci-fi, the intrigue, the world building. It's perfectly my kind of writing. Whereas Succession feels just very
you watched Severance because it had
and real
Ben Wyatt in it,
capitalism and shit. I do like Adam Scott, but that's not the reason I watched the show. God damn you. I do like Adam Scott. He's a fun guy. He's a funny guy. But actually,
hold on, you're gonna skip over. You're not gonna talk more about that one
you've seen. I mean, I talked sufficiently. It was a really good show.
Every time you brought it up in Texas, you're
nominations.
Jerking off a Smurf to watching it. You're just this is such a good show. Fucking love this.
Okay,
show.
fine. You want me to go off? Well, you want me to explain? So Severance, basically the basic premise is that people implant themselves with a chip that separates their work from their personal lives. So when they go into work, they go into a certain consciousness that only remembers their work and only deals with that work. And then as soon as they leave and go in and leave the floor that they work on, whatever, they go into their personal life and they go home and they don't have any recollection of what happened. 2 separate people, 1 body, essentially, with the same certain personality. But it's basically the whole show is just one ethical dilemma. Is is this okay? Is this something that is okay to do? Because in order to do that, you have to create a second person.
And if this is spoilers or diving too deep, feel free to say watermelon and we'll move on. That's our safe word for this conversation. Do they know that this is going to happen to them when they get hired by the company? They're going to, do they get to sit down in the HR room and they're like, hey, so welcome to, okay.
I'll say that, yes. Yeah, because then they have to know to go into work. Basically, they have to know, I'm going to work and I'm going to this floor, and when I go down, I will forget that this happened, and then all I'll remember is I go down, and then I'm awake again and I'm leaving work. They know that's the deal. And most of them are doing it because they want that. Because they don't want to remember their work. That's the point. That's basically the premise. Is yeah, exactly. So why would people not want to deal with their lives anymore? And that's kind of the premise of the show. And I think I described it to I think it was you maybe. The thing that interests me about it is in Handmaid's Tale, there's a clear premise of what happened to the world. That is, the birth rate went down. We don't know why the birth rate went down, but we know that it went down. And now, because babies are in high demand and the birth rate is so scarce, the countries around the world are basically forming all of their laws around this, and America is taken over by a religion. Like, that's the premise of Handmaid's Tale. Here, it feels like that kind of world where something is wrong, something has happened to make people want to do this, but we're not quite sure what that initiating passage was. It's almost, you know what it is? It's like our current modern day world, if instead of Jesus Christ being remembered, it was some like famous business figure, like capitalist figure from the
Elon Musk bullshit, or
exactly, like think if Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk existed back at the time of Jesus, or more recently, like 200 to 300 years ago, but like a Da Vinci, but who basically spawned a family and a people who worshipped him, like the way that we worship Jesus. That's what it feels like in this world, and it's
all right. Fair enough.
You need to see it. You just need to watch it.
And where would people consume this show?
It's fascinating. It's on Apple TV Plus.
Don't care about cost. We're not a sponsor. Nobody gives a shit.
The best deal of all those.
Moving on. I just want to know, like,
true.
True.
We'll cut that bullshit out. But yeah.
And it's
Apple
directed
TV
by
Plus, it's a
Zoolander,
very good show. By Ben. Yeah, it's directed by Zoolander, by Ben Stiller.
Slammed out a bottle.
It's interesting, you know. Ben Stiller has had a fascinating career, like starting just as a writer on SNL, then moving on and like he created the Ben Stiller Show, which that the kind of humor, the kind of weird surrealist humor being done on that show spawned Mr. Show with Bob Odenkirk and David Cross, which Bob Odenkirk and David Cross had both been writers, and Bob Odenkirk one of the stars of the Ben Stiller Show. So then they went on, they spawned that same comedy style. And from there, Bob Odenkirk became a muse for Tim Heidecker and Eric Wareheim with their many different series of, you know, Tim and Eric stuff. So if you don't like Tim and Eric, you can take it up with Ben Stiller and
Bob Odenkirk. And from what I recall, he got a couple of nominations on this Emmy list because he's on Better Call Saul. And he did fucking amazing.
He's on Better Call Saul, and Better Call Saul is not on the list of lots of nominations, but he's
up there. Like I think Better Call Saul and Ozark are the two shows that I mean, I glanced at the list just like to be like, what are we talking about today? Like, what? Emmys? What? Or a couple of days ago when we did this. But yeah, it was him and Jason Bateman that I saw part of Ozark that kind of like stuck in my head because those are two shows I have seen. I do watch it. I watch things. I consume media. Thank you. Kiss my ring.
Good for you.
And he is, you know, Bob Odenkirk is amazing as in Better Call Saul. It's just like, what a powerhouse of a depth of character, and way to bring a character who, just like you said, you know, Ted Lasso was, where he was one note, you know, and, you know, at least in my opinion, in Breaking Bad, Saul Goodman was a kind of a one note guy in Breaking Bad, and then this show really just like peeled back the layers of this fucker and showed us a great character development.
I was gonna say, he wasn't necessarily one note. He started out as one note. He started out because he was just going to be a actor, and they expanded the character. But but Breaking Bad, as that show like progressed, Saul Goodman became a very interesting and dynamic character who was still like the comedic relief, but he was a nuanced, interesting comedic relief. And what I love about Better Call Saul is that they took that character and expanded it even more into this character that you're like, holy shit, he's been through so much. How can he possibly go through the stuff in Breaking Bad without just weeping?
I'm really excited
with all the stuff that he's been through. Why does he not just have daily panic attacks?
Better Call Saul, wherever they're up to. And I really want to see how they tie it back into Breaking Bad, because it's like, how do you go from this guy that they introduced, this Jimmy McGill in the first season of Better Call Saul, to Saul Goodman that Walter White and Jesse Pinkman meet in Better Call Saul, which in Breaking Bad. Like, I'm just really intrigued by that. And I remember when I first sat down to watch the Better Call Saul, somebody described it to me this way, and I thought that was a good way to do it. Breaking Bad was like 70% drama, 30% comedy, which, as you said, was really fueled a lot by the actor, Bob Odenkirk. Fuck you, beer. And Better Call Saul, at least when it starts, is the opposite. It's the antithesis. It's 70% comedy with 30% drama, and then that number just continues to skew back and back as we get closer to when Better Call Saul starts. Because if I remember correctly, they meet Saul in season 2.
In season 2, when they've already been doing it for like 2 months, because the timeline of Breaking Bad is basically late 2007, I think, to
it's pretty
late 2009 or early 2010.
I mean,
it's a pretty condensed story. All in all,
I think it's the final season that takes place over like a couple of months, because he goes up to Maine for whatever fucking reason, and we're not going to go down that road of my beef with Breaking Bad.
Exactly. We're not going down that rabbit hole, but the point is these shows take place in short amounts of time, and Better Call Saul takes place in 2002. The story starts in 2002.
So we get a nice slow burn
6 years before Breaking Bad started. And so by the time season 6 currently, I think, is taking place in about...
Well, there's got to be a time jump, because Walter White and Jesse Pinkman appear in the season somewhere. So... Right.
Or unless this show is not afraid to do
the
flash forwards.
It's not constantly.
This show constantly does just flashbacks and flash forwards.
At the end of every season.
They'll do it. They'll do. No, I don't mean like those. So I just watched in season 3, episode 4. There's they really go into the tension between Hector and Gus. And it's the one where Hector takes over the Los Pollos Hermanos and waits until Gus gets there, and Gus releases his workers and then goes and just don't fuck with me, man. Or Gus's version, which is
fucking Pollos Hermanos with me, man. Are you having a wonderful day?
Yeah.
Giancarlo
you try and fuck me, I will fuck you back.
But anyway,
he's so good. But yeah, they in that episode they had several scenes that were clearly flashbacks to earlier times in the relationship between Hector and Gus. It starts out where it's
I was thinking flash
5
forward.
years before, you can tell, and Hector is they have flashbacks and flash forwards. They'll sometimes have stuff flashing forward. I think they've had a few scenes where it flashes forward to him. But
they only happen at the first and the last
very
episode.
briefly. So they are not adverse to doing flashbacks and flash forwards. No, you're talking about the ones where they flash to after Breaking Bad.
Yeah, there's a few.
I'm talking about they just flash to him in his office as Saul. very trickled in.
Too many goddamn
very
timelines.
sparsely, just like the flashbacks, but they do them. So
I feel like Charlie Day.
My guess is that that's what. Yeah, there's so much going on here, but my guess is that that's what they're doing with Walter White, and because I know there are like 9 episodes into this season of 13. But I haven't seen a frame of it, so
I mean, they did something similar with.
My guess is that they're doing flash forwards with those characters.
But there was a couple of flashbacks to.
I did. I loved that. I loved that as a cap to Jesse's story.
Yeah, I think that's probably going to be more of the capacity than Red.
Like that.
Yeah.
And the series has always done that. The series, like if we think of Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, and El Camino as all just one thing, just one series, they've always done that. They've always filmed it like that, where they'll just jump to a time and do a thing, do a scene from a time period in a character's life.
Yeah, and it works. It's jarring, but it works.
And they don't care.
Now, a show that they don't tell you, just kind of jumps in, you have to kind of piece it together.
They never tell you. They just do it.
It's not like 2 years ago, with a lower third title screen or something. They kind of just let you kind of figure it out, which is nice. They give the viewer agency to piece things together. Yeah.
They're the masters of showing not telling.
But I still maintain that Ozark is a better show. Yeah, see how I tied it back? You see how I brought it back?
Also on this list.
I want credit, motherfucker. I brought it
13
back
nominations. Yeah, 13 nominations. No, you get no credit. You get no credit. You get nothing.
I get a beer, right? There was the cat.
You get a beer.
And there was me. I can have cheeseburger and I can have beer. So
fill yourself up.
I don't have beer, but Ozark, in my opinion, is Breaking Bad done right. And I'm not saying that Breaking Bad was wrong, but like you can tell Breaking Bad was that kind of show, and they talked about it. Where like Vince Gilligan was kind of riding by the seat of his pants in the sense that like he had all these great ideas at the beginning, but were changed as the show gained popularity. For instance, Jesse Pinkman was only supposed to be in the first season. He was supposed to die, and yet Aaron Paul did such a phenomenal job, they kept him around for the rest of the run of the show, and then so like that show is ever evolving. Versus Ozark, I feel like the 4 seasons we got out of that show were well thought out ahead of time, and the story just felt cohesive. It had a natural build throughout. It was Breaking Bad without the Breaking Bad potholes that it fell into. Case in point, Breaking Bad, my biggest beef, and everybody's biggest beef, but and it's hard to say it's a beef because it was intentional, but like Skyler, Walt's wife, was just so annoying on screen, and Anna Gunn did a fantastic job with this. This isn't a drunk thought on how bad her acting was, because she was a phenomenal actor. That character was just like fucking tumor-inducing. But Laura Linney and Ozark, with Jason Bateman and those two, and how instead of being just a whiny little pain in the ass, Laura Linney was just like, no, I'm in, but I'm gonna be a part of this. And she, you almost don't know who's fucking worse.
Yeah,
is it Jason Bateman for laundering the money for the drug cartel, or her going along with it, and all these schemes and shit? Oh, it's just so fucking brilliant. So I really hope they got a lot of nods here.
I've got a high opinion for you, and that is that the reason Breaking Bad had the structure it did was because it was a network show. This was at a time when television was still done in network styles, where the writers would come together and say, "Oh, we're going for another season. What are we going to do this time?" And so I think when they were making Breaking Bad, shows were basically oh my god, I don't know why that's so fucking distracting.
You know what it doesn't look like?
Fuck you. up until 2000 and basically up until the 1990 to 2000, television was seen as a lesser form of film. You know, cinema was the great thing. Because I like to study film history, thank you very much. And so, like, people differentiated. Like, I'm a film actor, I'm a television actor, or oh, he's a television actor. Film actors would say, I don't do television. Film, yeah. There are still some actors, yeah, and there was, but there was also like actors. Certain actors would see it as a different tier, and I'm guessing that was because of agents. You know, like television wouldn't pay very much, and agents would push like, no, you should do movies because that'll like big glamorous movies. They get your paper, and then you become famous and make more money. And whereas sitcoms, you just get like a blank check. You get like you get steady money, but you don't get the glamour. You don't get the glitz. You know, I think that agents were always pushing for that. And so television really started to become like, people started to see, oh, this has potential to be a great art form with Twin Peaks and The Sopranos, shows like that, where they came along and said,
opposite of the fucking spectrum.
Two poles, yeah. Two very distinctly different poles, but think about it. Those two shows, while very different and coming about 10 years apart, dramatically changed the scene of how people looked at television. First with Twin Peaks, where it came along and basically said, television can be art. It can be more than just procedural. Television can tell a story about emotion and depth of character, just like movies can. Which instead of just being something to turn on and laugh at, or something to have as sappy drama, and then you forget about it and move on. No, this was something like, no, it was supposed to stick. It was a story that you were supposed to see as though it was a movie.
It's convoluted.
It's a tremendous story. It's one of my favorites. It's so convoluted. I mean, it's great. I don't understand the story, but I love it.
Fair.
Yeah.
Sopranos.
Mulholland Drive is one of my favorites. But then jump forward 10 years, and Sopranos did the same thing, but with like network television overarching for 6-7 years. Which at the time was still just network TV. Now it's becoming more. HBO was just cable network TV. They were what?
I don't think your facts are straight on that
one. Don't give me that look. So, like, HBO obviously,
channel,
it was its own organization and had its own budget and wasn't worried about. It was a premium channel. Yeah, it was a premium channel, but they still filmed. They still filmed like they were network television. Like, that was the thing. It was their TV just happened to be higher quality because they got better people working on it. But they were still like the way they were put together. Like, the writers would come in and write at the same time as the show was going and say, okay, what are we going to be doing next season, while they were filming the current season. Just like network television is usually written and shot. And so Sopranos basically came in and said, you can do this differently. You can still make an overarching story. You just have to, be smart about your writing. You can have these great overarching stories until you get to the finale. Yeah, but you can have these great overarching stories that you can build with just a single idea. You don't have to have the whole idea plotted out. Sopranos taught that, and Breaking Bad was a continuation of that. It was like, we came in with season 1. Yeah. They had a basic idea of where they wanted to go, but they didn't actually know where it was going to end. They just said, we're going to go until they tell us to stop. And that was that's what network television had always done.
Is it possible to tell you to stop?
They ended just at the time that streaming came along. And streaming, you can tell me to stop anytime. I won't stop, but you can tell me to stop anytime.
Oh, you have a point.
Basically, to finish my point, streaming allowed shows to just make like big narrative structures. And instead of saying we're going to plan it out as we go, they planned it ahead of time, and they had these huge ideas that they wanted to get out. And so that's the difference between network television and streaming, and why
there's nothing wrong with pivoting. I mean, Breaking Bad
change
certainly pivoted in phenomenal ways. Like, I'm not trying to disparage it, but I'm the kind of guy who, call me old school, call me whichever you want, call me an asshole, because I am. But, like, I like consistency. I like when you think about the beginning, the middle, and the end ahead of time, so that everything seems consistent throughout. And you can make changes, but case in point, well, and let's not go down the rabbit hole too hard, but, like, look at Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones started strong, the middle was strong, but then because the story hadn't been technically finished, it ended very weakly. And D.B. Weiss and David Benioff were pigeonholed into some story beats that were given to them that just didn't translate well because it just wasn't planned out. There's more to that story, of course. I'm not saying there's not. I'm not paraphrasing. I'm summarizing.
Okay. We'll say that for another.
But like you could, I'm sure you can. We'll get to a high-minded minute.
I can unleash some high opinions on D.B. Weiss and David.
But my point stands. Or another case in point when it comes to film. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It bugs me personally. The Thor movies. So I went recently saw the new Thor: Love and Thunder.
Yeah.
Decent movie, fun, comedic. It's good. It's a fun ride. I think it tries too hard versus Thor Ragnarok, that kind of came by like Chris Hemsworth humor naturally. Like Taika was able to take the character of Thor and imbue some humor into him and pull some humor out of Chris Hemsworth that he's fully capable of. Hemsworth is a hilarious guy. Love and Thunder was, we're going to play into that. Yeah. And it just was a little excessive. And so it's fun at times, but other times you're like, that scene probably could have done without that joke. But after I watched Love and Thunder, I watched the original Thor.
Yeah.
And holy shit. It's two different characters. Between Thor 1 and 2 and Ragnarok and Love and Thunder, which the first one was directed by Kenneth Branagh. The second one was directed by who knows who, because who gives a shit about that film? And then Ragnarok and Love and Thunder by Taika Waititi. And like Taika did a great job. I'm not trying to disparage the man. He interpreted the character different, and it bugs me to no end that there's such a difference between the two, that they are not consistent. Ozark felt consistent. Breaking Bad felt flying by the seat of your pants at times. Not a bad thing. Just a personal preference thing, just a drunk thought of how the show progressed.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And speaking of shows that have plans ahead of time,
did they have a plan? Did the Johnny Brothers have a plan on this one?
Season 4 just came out. Duffy, did you just say Duffy or Duffer?
Sorry.
You said it's Duffer.
Troy Duffy. There's a director known as Troy Duffy who directed Boondock Saints, one of my favorite fucking movies. The Duffer Brothers.
That's
Stranger Things. Go.
Fine. That's fair. The Duffer Brothers. There we go. Yeah. Stranger Things season 4 came out, and it was nominated for 13 things, and we're gonna get to this in a few minutes, but people have been making a big deal about none of the actors have been nominated.
Do I text them?
And it's a show with a huge ensemble cast, and maybe, but we'll get to it. We'll talk about it. What is important here is that Stranger Things got nominated for basically every single technical award: production design, cinematography, visual effects, CGI, like every category that they could be nominated for in the technical aspect, they were nominated for. And so they absolutely deserve those. And every single actor this season deserved to be nominated, but they didn't. But
are we?
we'll get to that. The last two shows here that were on the big nominations were The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel with 12, and great show, and Pam and Tommy with 10, which I have not seen, but I've heard was very good. I like Rose Lily. I like
Nick Offerman.
I like Sebastian Stan. I like
Come on. Who does not like Ron Swanson?
I like Nick Offerman. Yeah, honestly though, he's such a great character, and I recently just watched the show. I
have not seen it. It was always on my list to watch, but I just
have you ever seen that?
Kind of forgot about it. But it looked like it was just a stacked cast of awesome.
I recently watched it. Why did nobody talk about it? It got nominated for nothing. Why did nobody talk about that movie? It was really good. Yeah. It was the creator of the Daredevil show on Netflix who wrote and directed it. It was he's also the directing executive producer of The Good Place. Not the writing, but the directing executive producer. And he did Cabin in the Woods, the movie Cabin in the Woods 2011, which I thought was a very good movie. Yeah. Just a very good director. Daredevil was wonderful. And so nobody was talking about this movie. Why is nobody talking about it? It's really good. Jeff Bridges, John Hamm, Nick Offerman is in the opening scene. This whole elaborate scene of him, like ripping up a hotel room, tearing up the floorboards, stashing something underneath the floorboards, and then putting the room back together.
Spoilers,
and then the door opens and he gets shot by a shotgun and just blasted against. It's the first scene. It's the premise of the movie. It's the first scene. So Nick Offerman dies I'm just telling you now, Nick Offerman dies in the first scene. But that's the whole intrigue of the movie. You'll see. And it's such a good scene. Nick Offerman is just one of those people.
From Friction.
Yes, he does have his mustache. It's Nick Offerman. You gotta.
That man has a glorious mustache. He looks weird without it.
No. He tamed himself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, honestly, I love him with a big beard. He looks great with a great.
You were talking Stranger Things,
but we're getting off track here. Those were the shows. Those were the big shows that were nominated. Those were all the big shows that were nominated. I think it's a good list. I think that we're in a golden era of television right now, and I just hope it keeps.
I feel like there's a bubble growing a little bit, and I'm a little concerned that especially because COVID. I think COVID started it. And then people are getting a little complacent with television, and it's going to detract from movies. And we're going to start getting more and more streaming content than we are going to get theatrical content. So I'm worried about that. I think that's where we're headed. And and my pure emphasis of examples is Marvel, where they're like, do you know? This is a fun fact. There is more content right now for the Marvel shows the Phase 4. So every movie from where did they end it? Was it Far From Home? I think right after Endgame, because Far From Home was dealing with Tony's death in Spider-Man, right?
Far From Home was.
But I still think it's Phase 3.
Dealing with Tony's death.
The point being, anyway. Roughly Phase 4, which roughly translates to the end of his Endgame when they take out Thanos. So maybe a movie or two, but the entirety of Phase 4 from Endgame forward, all the movies and all the video, the streaming content. If you add up all the content from all that we've gotten so far, it equals more minutes of screen time than the entire first 3 phases of Marvel. That is a shit ton. And nobody knows where the fuck Phase 4 is going. Which is a whole other beef that we'll talk about in another episode. But my point being, my big old drunk thought is like Marvel, with COVID and the advent of Disney Plus is like they're investing heavily on Disney Plus stuff, which there's some great stuff. Moon Knight, Miss Marvel. I have my own thoughts on Miss Marvel overall for the story, but the character was fantastic, and I loved the lead actress, she was phenomenal. I'm so looking forward to her interacting with Brie Larson because she's such a treat. Loki and What If and all these great shows, like they're not bad, but it just they have a distinctly different feel because they're streaming. And I prefer the cinematic approach personally. So take it with a grain of salt and a shot of tequila that I might do here in a minute.
Fair.
But
I think so. Look at it this way. So, are you a big reader of comics, Cory? So you know how when comics release, usually they'll do like issue by issue, and they'll be like 20 to 22 pages. They're very short, little like episodes, like little chronicles in their stories. And then occasionally, like once every like year or a few years,
they'll
do a
big, they'll do an annual
like story.
At the end of every year, they would do an annual, which is usually like what the Avengers was. You have all these individual stories, and then they'll bring them all together for an annual, which would be like the Avengers, the original movie.
Yeah. There we go. So annuals, and they would usually be like a bigger thing. It wouldn't be like just a 20-page issue. It'd be like a 100 or 200-page like book almost. And so I think that's where they want to go with the MCU. They started with just having annuals to get the publicity going, to get like people, like really interested in it. Now they have the money. Now they can do whatever the fuck they want. And so they're just going to make content. They're just going to make shows. And they don't care if they're like good or bad. They just want to keep this universe going. They want to keep the shows going. And then the movies will be their big, big thing. And if the movies do well, that's all that matters. The shows, these TV shows are literally just publicity for the big movies. Like we were they're advertising. They're just advertising. Like we've seen all these characters introduced in phase 4 so far, and obviously they're all going to
we're going to get Young Avengers.
Absolutely where it's going to go.
I mean, you got
why else?
The new Black Widow with Florence Pugh. You have the new Hawkeye, Kate Bishop. You got the new Falcon.
Yeah.
Taurus. The new Ironheart.
They're about to introduce the new Iron Man.
She's supposed to be introduced in the film. She's been rumored to come in Black Panther Wakanda Forever. But then also introduces Shuri as the new Black Panther.
But
they've already announced that
they're going to
Ant-Man the Wasp, Quantumania, Ant-Man 3, they're going to bring in his daughter as an Ant-Man character, an Ant-Man superhero. So like they're definitely building up to a Young Avengers thing. I mean, and then we have Miss Marvel, the latest TV series of the same name. So like they're definitely building to a Young Avengers thing, and they're building a franchise. They're building it up from there because like here's a shit ton of actors and actresses and people who can play these roles for the next 15 years. Versus like when Robert Downey Jr. became Iron Man, he was in his 40s.
Yeah,
and he did a fantastic job. Don't get me wrong, but like he can't be doing that forever. Or Hugh Jackman is Wolverine.
They got Wolverine. Yeah, they started out with huge names in roles like even Robert Downey Jr. Despite him being like
he was an underdog and he got cast.
He was a huge name to be casted as Iron Man. Exactly, like he was SNL. Chaplin. He had done so many movies. He had been in the tabloids for years and years and years. Even if it wasn't, he was in jail. He was in the tabloids. He was constantly talking about being talked about in the media for the 90s. Like people knew him. So when they said Iron Man, like it doesn't matter if it's good or bad publicity, it's still publicity. So they had Robert Downey Jr. playing a superhero. Holy shit!
Which I think that was great casting on Tom Favreau's Iron Man
superhero.
Like that was one of Iron Man's biggest like in the comics. He originally came out as a POW from the Vietnam War and survived that. But like his big thing in comics, his like weakness is he was an alcoholic.
Yeah.
I said that weird. Alcoholic.
Yeah.
So it's like, here you have a guy who's dealt with substance abuse and knows what that's like and knows how to put that into a character. So, he brought so much to the table. So anyway, but
absolutely, yeah. So they started off with a killer cast of just the best people in each of the roles, people who like big names already, and now I'm excited. The thing that excited me the most about Ms. Marvel, beside it just being a good show, was
never acted before.
Iman Vellani is a new name. She's never acted before. She's not somebody who's just like, she's not like Florence Pugh, who's been in everything the last 2 years. She's not like I'm forgetting her name. No. I'm not saying anything negative about this. Don't get me wrong. Like I think that she's wonderful. Like Florence Pugh is wonderful, but it's not like
she has a pedigree behind her.
Who's just been like blowing up in the last few years, and the girl who plays Kate Bishop, who's been in like 5 things, and the girl who plays Kate Bishop, who blew up at like 10 years old when she was in True Grit. Haley Steinfeld, who blew up from being in True Grit when she was 10 or 12. Like these are people who have like histories to them, and so I was really excited. This is what I wanted, was Marvel to start bringing in actors like Iman Vellani, who are young, vibrant, want to
probably
act,
really fucking cheap on a paycheck,
are just like looking for that break, even if they've never done anything. Yeah, and probably really cheap on a paycheck. Doesn't matter. Doesn't fucking matter. Blow it on the special effects. Get the special effects better. Doesn't matter. I don't need the actors to be great. I don't come to Marvel for the good acting. Even the good actors are not that great in Marvel projects. They're just, they play their role.
She's got a full name, Sarah something. And I always, like, she's been doing it since Iron Man, and she's such a phenomenal casting agent. So good on her. Just kudos to that. But anyway, we kind of digress from the Emmys there for a second.
Yeah.
Just talking about. So, I'm not going to cut this. I won't cut it, but I'm just saying.
It's okay. But maybe
I'm way too white to start rapping. You don't want that. I'm not Vanilla Ice.
Start wrapping it up. I don't know. I said maybe we should start wrapping it up, as in WR.
What, you don't use condoms? You don't wrap it up?
A package.
Gross. Fucking weird, dude. So did you finish your blue sperm there? What are you drinking there? Is that more than
There's
Mojo?
Still plenty for more. Shouldn't. More of the Mojo.
Did you import that into Canada illegally?
So far.
Tell the truth. It's okay. We don't judge. I mean, I might.
If I had declared, they
I
asked me
declare that you're
at the border. I did not.
Illegal asshole, but whatever. Where did you get that shit from again? What was the name of the store?
But this is.
Do it in the voice.
This is from Sweet Jane, which is a lovely little store in Purdy, Washington, near Gig Harbor.
We're not sponsored by them, for the record. He just really enjoyed this shit.
Washington. I'm not sponsored by them. I just really like that store. I always love going in there. Lovely people who work there. They always have a great selection. I love going in, asking them, what they recommend, because I never just go in and say, I want this. It should be an experience. You should go in and be like, hey,
fucking stoners, dude.
Hey,
you're all bros, man. Where's your man bun?
That's what it's all about. Hey, man.
No. Fuck you. You get a man bun, I'm done. I'm throwing the fucking towel. Choose your next word carefully. Drunk Thoughts and High Opinions can go on a hiatus. I think we discussed in an early episode. You are fucking replaceable. I have other high friends.
And you're replaceable too. I have access to the same account. We can
Mine will be
two channels on the same channel.
Drunk Thoughts and High Opinions, the epic duel.
Drunk Thoughts and High Opinions 2.
Oh, snap.
No, it's Drunk Thoughts and High Opinions.
Cue the Star Wars music.
Drunk
That's
Thoughts.
all I can say before they copyright our shit. Duel of Fates, though. Look it up.
Duel of Fates. Anyways,
I've been saying that the whole time. Like,
I think
don't be silly, wrap your Billy, fucker. Put on a condom. Stop. All right, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna enjoy.
Fuck you.
Oh, why didn't you fucking say so?
I didn't wrap up the show.
I'm over here drinking my Lonnie Kugels and you're talking about wrapping your dick. Context, motherfucker. We've been talking about this. We've talked about this. You look like the worst Marvel supervillain. Yeah.
You know, I'm something of a scientist myself. Why is that?
Just no. Everything. No. Just no.
Just no?
Jesus.
Just keep it.
I'm gonna keep something.
Keep it.
Anyway, you're right. Let's go ahead and wrap up the show and call ourselves a good night. So until next time, thanks so much for joining us on this episode of Drunk Thoughts and High Opinions. My name's Cory. Cheers, everyone.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you gonna introduce yourself?
I'm Graham, by the way. Well, you said I'm Cory and then have a good night, and it's like, well, you usually say I'm Cory, that's Graham, then
I was giving you the chance to
it's
like, I'm done.
If it's like
you take the reins and finish it out.
If it's like hot, no, it's weird pacing. It's weird pacing, my dude. It's weird pacing. I knew you were gonna say that, so I'm just gonna finish this off with you're a towel.
I've been Cory. Thanks for joining us. My co-host as ever is Graham. That doesn't understand a fucking cue.
And I've been Graham.
I think you wrap it up.
Well, fuck me, I guess.
Who are you again?
Yeah.
All right, good. Let's get that out of the way.
I am Graham.
I'm Cory, and I'm pissed off at Graham.
High opinion.
But I also got drunk fine, so you know what? We're gonna call it a night. Peace out.